Hello everyone. So today we'll be talking about the students who are going to come to UK from India or from anywhere for that matter to study in universities this year in 2020. This is a very important year. A few people have even actually asked me in emails and in comments about students who are going to come and what's happening right now in UK, because obviously there's a lot of impact because of Covid-19. And this year is actually a very important year for international students coming to UK, because this is the start of the new rules about work after your tier 4. Previously, like I said in one of my videos, the current rules are that after you finish your course in tier 4, you get only about 4 months to find a work and find a sponsor for your work. And if you don't find a sponsor for your work, you have to go back. From this year onwards, people who are going to start their university program from this year and graduate with a 9-month course, they're going to graduate next summer. They are extending the post-study visa to 2 years. So which means that anybody who starts this year is going to be a very important year, because next year when they graduate, they will get a 2-year work visa, which means that there's a good prospect of finding a job. And this is actually one of the reasons why this year's intake for international students, especially Indian students, the number of people who've been applying for the universities are actually nearly doubled from last year. So approximately about 30 to 40,000 Indian students come to university, or expected to come to Indian UK universities this year. Another 100,000 students, more than 1 lakh students from China are expected to come. So nearly 150 to 160,000 students from India and China alone come to UK, and about 1 in 5 students in every university in UK are international students. But the most important thing is they make up nearly about 35 to 40% of a university's total income, total tuition fees, because the university tuition fees that the international students pay is disproportionate to the UK students or the British students what they pay, or the European students what they pay. So as a result, it's nearly around £7 billion per year for all the 135 universities combined. And this is a huge amount. It's nearly 70,000 crores in Indian rupees. And this is a huge amount of money for all the universities. And the higher education system practically depends on this kind of money coming from the international students. So obviously they're taking it very seriously, and they've been working very closely with the government as well, trying to see what best that they can do. There's a lot of uncertainty, like I said. So what I'll be doing is I'll be talking through some of the material that is available out there, some of the government policies, what they have taken towards COVID-19. What would happen in September 2020? How will the situation have changed? What is my advice? What is my take on it? And I'll give you all the links that we're going to use. We're going to talk about all the information that is out there. I've collated it. I've found some of the links that give you probably the most up-to-date information, the best information that is possible. And we'll use those links to talk about this in a while, and then I'll just provide a summary of what I think is the best course of action for students coming to UK in 2020. So obviously the first source of information is your gov.uk links. There is a separate coronavirus advice for UK visa applicants in general, and I had mentioned in one of my earlier videos about the coronavirus impact that anybody's visa which got impacted or which was going to expire between January to 31st of May, they have automatically extended it to 31st of May. Now that we are in June, they have again automatically extended it to 31st of July 2020. You were expected to fill a simple form for the coronavirus immigration team earlier when you had to extend it, and if you had already done that and extended your visa to 31st of May, then you don't need to do anything else. You just assume that it is automatically extended to 31st of July 2020. But if your visa was expiring between, let's say, 31st of May to 31st of July, you need to fill up that simple form and get it extended. Again, there is another important link, which is the fact sheet for the graduate immigration route. This is the 2-year extension visa, and this graduate immigration route fact sheet talks about all the rules that are governing the 2-year work visa that is going to come from next year onwards for students who are going to start in September 2020 this year. This is again very important because a lot of you had questions earlier when we had clarified about the news that this is going to come, but this is kind of it's not a new link, it's an old link, but it's got consolidated information in regards to all the rules with regards to what are the work visa regulations for students who are going to start this year and graduate next year. So I'll give you the link for this fact sheet as well. Now, connected to that, another important Go.uk link, actually this is something that had been requested by many people, is that there is an expectation that a lot of universities will be doing online courses, will be doing long distance learning, because people will not be able to come to the university when the course starts, when the colleges start. Now, people who have been reading about Tier 4 will know that international students aren't allowed to have long distance learning or online learning as part of their 9-month or 10-month curriculum, and that is not recognized towards getting them to a graduate work visa, because you need to be sitting in the class, and face-to-face interaction is what is treated as applicable when you are applying for your postgraduate or post work visa schemes. So there is a discretion that government has announced that they will give, that anybody who is going to graduate in 2021, if they had been delayed because of coronavirus and they had to do distance learning or remote learning, then there will be a discretionary grant given for those students, that even if they had to do something distance learning or online learning, then they will be considering it. That's another important thing to note. So the other link, studyinuk.com, has got a lot of information about in general about studying in UK. But the one point that I wanted to use this link to clarify is that they have one of the most up-to-date informations with regards to the fact that most universities have already announced that they are not expecting a change to the start of the academic year based on the information that they have now with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. As you would have heard, London is opening up, UK is opening up, the lockdown is slowly shifting, and it's being released right now. So, but this is based on the information that they have right now, and things could change in the future. But this is clarifying that if you had applied and if you're waiting for your university decision whether it's going to start or not, a lot of universities have already announced that they're going to start in September or October, whenever is your start date. The other very important or very useful website that I found was UKCISA, UK Council for International Student Affairs. This has got a lot of good information, especially there is a dedicated page for coronavirus, and I like the links that they have provided. For example, the letter to the letter that the last Minister for State of Universities had written for England in April. It was a bit outdated, but that's the last published letter that the government had written as a consolidated letter. And they also have a good section called questions we can answer, questions we cannot answer. And it's quite useful actually if you can go through in detail. It's really very useful with regards to they have addressed pretty much most of the frequently addressed questions. Again, the work visa that we talked about, and especially the fact that that even people who are finishing this year, there is a 20-hour limit that is there for students who in terms of work when you are in a tier 4. But a lot of doctors, a lot of medical care professionals have been asked to start their work earlier, the final year students especially in medicine. And for them, this 20-hour work limitation has been exempted, which means that they can work longer hours with the NHS, they can work full time. They're not limited or they're not restricted to the 10 or 20 hours based on the level of your course. So there's a few restrictions that have been lifted. It's very useful in terms of consolidated information with regards to most of the questions that you can think about. Again, another important thing is about the English language test. A lot of test centers are closed. IELTS test centers are closed in a lot of countries, which means that you may not be able to write your English language test, and you might have done all the preparation, applied for it, but you don't have an IELTS test score. So they have provided some of the alternatives where if the university is accepting some of the alternatives, again it's a good read. For example, they are accepting Pearson and PTE test, and there's different tests that they're mentioned about. Very good read in this regard. Again, this is the letter that they have given a link to. Again, I'll give you the direct link to this letter from Michelle Donnellan. It's useful because it's giving you a consolidated government information with regards to what is government's approach, what is government doing, what is government's suggestion in terms of COVID-19, in terms of COVID-19's response by the UK government, specifically for international students and specifically for students who are completing this year or going to start this year. So again, a very good read. So I'll give you the link to this and you can go through this in detail. Another important website or an important link with a lot of information is universitiesuk.ac.uk. So anybody who've been doing their tier 4 research probably already know about this. This is a collective voice of all the 137 universities in England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and they work with some of the other organizations, and they have provided a lot of information. They have even given a lot of suggestions to the government, working with UKCISA, UK Council for International Student Affairs. They've even written a consolidated letter, which is really good because the suggestions that they've given, a few of the suggestions have already been accepted by the UK government. The UK government have already acted on some of these suggestions. But this letter is actually a consolidated list of suggestions that they've given, making sure that online courses are recognized, which we already spoke about. Especially when international students are doing online courses, they're spending less than 11 months in UK, or they're spending less than the required time doing face-to-face, but they need to be recognized in terms of the graduate route, work visa schemes. Also, there's some really good suggestions in terms of abolishing the tier 4 visa fees for this year. Consider doing it so that you can make it more competitive. So this could be really beneficial for students if the UK government accept it. Also, there's not much of a government-backed loans for international students. UK students obviously get the loan from Student Loan Council, but international students don't get a government-backed loan. So they're asking the UK government to explore the possibility of getting government-backed loans for international students. And a lot of these recommendations actually would be really beneficial if the UK government even implement a small portion of these recommendations. This is again a good read. I mean, not sure if everything will be implemented, but this at least gives you this gives you a view of what are the student bodies working towards. What are they trying to do for the students. Again, it reinforces the £7 billion income that we spoke about, that the international students bring to UK, and why international students are important for UK. Another link that they had provided in the Universities UK, universitiesuk.ac.uk, is the consolidated university responses, and university by university. What is the university's approach to the international students, or to the start of the curriculum itself? 10% have said that till June, they have not yet decided. Whereas about 40% they have said that they're going to be doing a blended learning. And about 2% have said that they're going to start only with an online learning. They're not sure that they're going to be offering classroom to start with. So every university has taken a different decision. And if you actually scroll down, you will see by each university, alphabetically ordered, what that university start date is, what have they confirmed, and what is their teaching method. Is it a blended method, online, or have they not specified? What's the last update, or what's the next update that they're going to have? What's an online open day that they're going to have? So if you know your universities, actually you can look up your university and you can see what the last approach is, or what is the suggested approach, or if you have 3 or 4 universities in pipeline. Another, again, similar to how the other website has done, even Universities UK, they have a specific coronavirus section, Covid-19 section, where they have one section for the current international students who are already studying into 2019, from 2019 onwards, and who are going to finish this year, because there's a lot of uncertainty for them as well. Where do they stay? What are their grades going to be? Because it's all going to be based on predictive scoring. So there's a lot of good information about students who are already in UK. So this is another important point. As per the rules from I think this week onwards, anyone who is going to arrive in UK are expected to self-isolate for 14 days. Now this is going to be really difficult for international students specifically. We'll talk about it, but this is another important thing, because if somebody is arriving who's not a student who's arriving, they'll probably have a place to stay. If they're working, the company will arrange some space for them, but most students will go into a shared accommodation, will go into a paying guest accommodation. So it's very difficult for them to do a self-isolation at this point, because the first 2 weeks for a student is really important. It's when they're going to sort their mobile, their broadband, all of their logistics in the first 2 weeks, and self-isolating in the first 2 weeks in a new country is going to be really, really difficult. Again, there's some good links with regards to British Council, with regards to IELTS specifically. There's some free webinars that are being offered by IELTS because of the lockdown, that you're not able to go out and take some of these learning courses online, or learning courses in the places directly. So there are some free online webinars that are being conducted. So if you have not yet done your IELTS, if you're not yet done your English language test, then you can always take advantage of this. So in summary, right, there's a lot of uncertainty still there. For example, will there be a second wave, especially with the lockdown being lifted, with a lot of people socializing, a lot of people going back to public transport? There is definite possibility that there might be a second wave as well. And if a second wave comes, will there be another lockdown? Or when UK lifts out of lockdown, will India go into a further lockdown, because the numbers in India are increasing, which means that UK could stop Indian students from coming into UK. Again, how long will this 2-week, 14-day isolation period stay in for? So there's a lot of uncertainty, and come September, you might be looking at any one of situations where you may not be able to travel. So what's the advice? What can one do? So everybody's situation is different, right? I cannot tell someone who's been preparing for months, for probably years to come into UK. I cannot tell them that just don't do it. But here's the thing. There's one thing that the universities are offering. If you are not coming through a scholarship, if you are fully funding your university tuition fees yourself, universities who've given you a placement are considerate to the fact that there might be difficulties. So they are offering students to defer their placement to next year, which means that if you have a placement for this year with a university, a lot of universities are offering placement deferrals to next year, which means that you could take up the referral, you could take up the admission to the university next year, as long as you're paying the fees by yourself. But if you're coming through a scholarship, then the scholarship needs to be taken this year, because every scholarship is allocated on that year. So what I would have done if I was coming into UK is that if I am coming through a scholarship, I would definitely face it, and I will come into UK, and there'll be a lot of people who will be facing this situation along with me. So I'll take that into consideration. I'll definitely go for it. I'll come into UK. But if I have not yet spent money on this, if I've not spent a lot of money on it, if I have a placement from a university but I have not yet got my visa, I've not yet got other logistics sorted, I will probably push it to next year, talk to the university, see if I can defer it and push it to next year, because there is definitely going to be a huge struggle. When the lockdown started, a lot of logistics was difficult in London, and again, if a lockdown comes back, everything from getting your groceries to simple things are going to be a struggle, especially if you're a new international student coming into UK. The most simplest thing is to self-isolate for 14 days. Even that is going to be difficult, because like I said, the first 14 days is when you will be sorting out your logistics, and without being able to go out and do some of that stuff, you will really struggle to even connect with people in the first place. So if I was not coming through scholarship, I would probably defer it to next year. That's my personal choice. That's my personal suggestion. I'm not suggesting it as an option for other people. Obviously, everyone's circumstance might be different. People might have been waiting for this moment for a long time. And obviously, this is another important year, right? Because the people who start this year are going to finish next year. And the first time after a few years, students who are graduating, international students who are graduating, have an opportunity to have a 2-year work visa, which means it is even more lucrative for international students, especially Indian students, coming to study this year, that they will have a lot more opportunity next year, because there'll be a smaller group of students who have that 2-year option. Whereas if you start next year, the subsequent year, there'll be more students, because previous year students would have also qualified. So there's a lot of factors that need to be taken into consideration. So I've given you some of the information that I think was useful, and I've given you some of my perspective. So hopefully you found this useful. Again, if you have specific questions, do let me know. You can email me, or you can put it in the comments. But do leave me your feedback. See if you found this useful. So until next time, thank you. Bye.